And hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Before we do get into today's video, as always, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. So I hope you guys are all okay. We've got some news to discuss in today's video. Quite a lot happened around Celtic in the recent days. Quite a lot I want to go through. Of course, the transfer window is still very much on, despite the season starting and being underway. Of course, Celtic played again today, another 3 points on the board. And there's two players I want to talk about in particular, kind of in regards to the game and kind of in regards to the transfer news, of course. So the first one, who I thought again was really, really good, and I spoke about him last week, and this kind of coincides with the transfer window as a whole as well. That is Nicolas Kuhn. So before I get into what Rodgers said about him after the match and my thoughts on Nicolas Kuhn, of course, an area that's been kind of targeted for improvement this transfer window has been that right wing position in our squad. Of course, Yang plays there, Palmer plays there, and of course, the aforementioned Nicolas Kuhn plays there. And going into this season, we felt like that area definitely needed improving upon because we felt like the quality that we had there wasn't up to the Celtic standard. Of course, we've seen glimpses of Luis Palmer last season being fairly decent, but of course, there's inconsistencies in his games. Yang, in my opinion, definitely not up to it for a Celtic player. No disrespect to him, of course, just not quite there yet. And Nicolas Kuhn, from what I'd seen of him last season, again, there's a few games here and there looked pretty decent, but again, that inconsistency was the major issue for his overall performances last campaign, of course, when he signed in January. But the first two games of this season, he's been absolutely superb. Now, to give you a bit of a backstory to Nicolas Kuhn, this guy used to play in the Ajax academy. This guy was signed by Bayern Munich from Ajax. This guy had a very, very high ceiling in his younger years. Of course, he's like 24 years old now. He's no longer a younger pup, but this guy seems to be striving right now and thriving under Brendan Rodgers and at the start of this season. Of course, it's still early days. I don't want to get carried away, but another goal against Hibernian at Easter Road, definitely nothing to be sniffed at. A very good performance overall from Kuhn. And Rodgers is full of praise for his player as well. Of course, he had a very frustrating start to life at Celtic after joining in January from Rapid Vienna, and he failed to become a first-team starter week in, week out last year, but now he's putting those wrongs to right at the start of this season. So Rodgers said, "I just think it's time, isn't it? I think we all expect people to adapt straight away. You love them too, whether they're managers, coaches, or supporters. You want them to be ready immediately. But he came into the club during a challenging period in January. He had issues around his fitness and health and everything else. He just landed in the middle of that difficult time, and it took him a little while. But he's had a really good pre-season. He's always been quick, one of the quickest players you'll see, but I think now there's more variety to his game coming inside and out. The big thing I told him when he arrived was that he needs to score goals. As a winger, you need to create and score. That's your job. Similar to Matt O'Reilly, you can't go through 6 months and score your first goal in January like last season. It's about these guys contributing and doing their job, and he's doing his job very, very well. He's a good guy, works hard, and we constantly remind him to get back into the right positions, especially at the back post for the crosses. He started the season well. So Kuhn will certainly play a big part for Celtic this season, with his pace and dynamism out wide being electric at times. So the question to you guys as a whole for this whole story about Nicolas Kuhn, would you still target a right winger this transfer window? Of course, there's still other areas in the pitch we need to look at. Of course, striker, Adam Idah is still very much of interest of Celtic. Another centre-half would be nice as well, and a left-back as well. Of course, I mentioned Jeffrey Schlupp the other day there. But would you still look at the right wing as an area that needs to be improved upon? Given how well Nicolas Kuhn started, would you back him to do the job until January, maybe reassess the situation come the January transfer window? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Now, another man that featured today, and another man that's kind of been discussed about potentially leaving, of course, is that man, Matt O'Reilly, the man that's took up all the headlines across Celtic throughout this transfer window and throughout last season as well, just for how good he's been. So Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers spoke after the match against Hibernian about the future of Matt O'Reilly at the club. So of course, Celtic rejected 4 bids from Atalanta, including the latest of £20 million. The Danish playmaker has also been linked with moves to English Premier League sides like Brighton and Southampton. However, Rodgers was quick to shift the focus away from speculation about whether O'Reilly would depart this summer. He said, "I don't think we can replace like for like. If he did leave, to get someone like that straight away would be very difficult. If he did go, it would be big for big money, and obviously we won't be spending that on one player. I'm not overthinking it. He's a gifted player that I love working with. His attitude is first class, and he knows I trust him 100%. So, to be honest with you, I was left kind of a little bit deflated after hearing those comments from Brendan Rodgers. Not because he said anything really bad in particular. It was just more so the lack of ambition in his tonality and kind of the expected, oh, we won't be spending that on one given player for his replacement. It just seemed like there's no ambition there. I don't blame Rodgers for that whatsoever. I think it's the hierarchy, the board, that are to blame for that issue, that situation, if you will. But I think if O'Reilly was to leave, of course, £25 million is the asking price Celtic want for him. For some reason, no team wants to match that, which is absolutely ludicrous. I feel like the replacement player would sign at most would be around £7 million, and that would be, an ideal situation. That's what we would spend for his replacement, and it'd probably be a project player as well that has good potential and could be up to Matt O'Reilly standards in 2 to 3 years' time. So yeah, we have kind of grown frustrated with the lack of ambition shown by the board throughout the last few years in transfer windows, and kind of just expected, oh, but we won't be spending that on his replacement. Like we should be, expecting that from the seller Matt O'Reilly, that we're going to sign someone that's not half as good as him, which is a shame, of course, because Rodgers has promised when he came back would be competing in European football. He'd be supported enough for the players brought in to compete in European football. But again, we're not really seeing that. We've signed some good players, yes. Of course, Nicolas Kuhn looks like a good little purchase right now. Palmer was okay, but the majority of the players we signed last summer have been piss poor. I mean, some of them are leaving already. Gustav Legerbilk's future is coming to an end. Mark Nowacki looks like he's leaving as well. So, it's really frustrating, and hopefully, ideally, Matt O'Reilly does stay at the club, but of course, it looks more and more unlikely that he will, just given by the sheer amount of teams interested in him. But if we were to replace him, I want someone decent to come in, not some unknown player that might be good if in 2 to 3 years' time that comes in for about £2 million. But we have to see what happens with regards to that situation. But yeah, a little bit frustrated with Rodgers' words. But again, I don't blame the manager. I blame the board who make the transfers happen. Of course, we know Rodgers has a little bit of a say in it, but not really as much to how much he can spend in the transfer market. That's all down to the hierarchy. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. First of all, on the game today, what did you make of the performances of Nicolas Kuhn, for example? Do you think he's good enough to start as our out-and-out right winger this season? Yes or no? And with the Matt O'Reilly situation, if he was to leave, who would you want to see as a replacement? Because I've seen some comments down below. Some of you guys mentioning some really good names across European football for certain positions. Someone mentioned an Ajax left back the other day that could be a good option for Greg Taylor to compete with him. There's certain names like that are really interesting to read about and look up who these players are and what they could bring to Celtic. So let me know your thoughts on who you would want to replace Matt O'Reilly if he was to leave. And make sure you do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.